Hello, and welcome to the Brahma Kumari Center. Thank you for joining us today. I hope you're all staying well and safe and doing good. So today we are going to ask of two things from you. First, we do want this session to be actively participating, so please participate as much as you can because it's only to your benefit. Second of all, please use the chat box to participate. So you can use a live chat box on YouTube. If it's not working for you, please sign into your Gmail account, and from there you should be able to type. So my name is Neha. I am 19 years old and I am a youth at the Brahma Kumari Center. So in this series, Self-Care, Improving the Quality of Everyday Life, we are going to improve the quality of everyday life by integrating the virtue purity today. So I believe purity is a virtue that's not mentioned as much as other virtues. And it's not always used to its true potential, especially nowadays, in today's day and age. Think about it. When did you last hear about the word purity used in a sentence? Unless you work as a jeweler, it probably has been quite a while. And when we talk about purity, most people think it only pertains to cleanliness. However, it is much more deeper, and it's just the surface level, but today we're going to dig much deeper within and understand the true meaning of what it means to be pure. However, you could have heard of pure hearts before though, so that's good. Might ring a bell. A closer look reveals that purity's power affects every part of our lives, every action that we can choose, or thoughts that we create, whether they be positive. And purity can also affect the lives of others around us. So not only does it have an impact on ourselves, but the people surrounded. And it will always continue for both now and in eternity. And we are going to discuss this further on. But now, let's start with the easiest question. What does purity mean to you? Feel free to use the live chat box and put your thoughts. I'll give you a second to think about it. Okay, well, just as clean essentially means to not be dirty, you could define purity as freedom from contamination. Now, we can define this contamination as thoughts. It could be negative thoughts, these negative thoughts that we create in our mind, or the impurity of also what goes into our body, such as what we feed our body. When you're pure, you can think of a flow with no blockages or obstructions in your path. Think of pure water as traveling through a pipe with no moss or algae there to obstruct its flow. The water can gently pass, and it is clear water, crystal clear water, just envision that is not polluted with harmful toxins or chemicals. The water is also flexible to move, and it follows the path of the pipe. So through this analogy, you can essentially say that purity means to have clearness and a peaceful, natural flow to life. This analogy is helpful for picturing what a pure life can look like. Purity can also describe who you are and what you do. It applies both to your character and also to your conduct. For example, if you have pure intentions or not. I feel people can catch your aura and energy you give off as well. So while you might say something, it's the energy you give off with what you say. There is innocence and genuineness to what you say that makes people believe you. When someone has pure intentions, and I bet we all have heard pure intentions before, it means to be real, genuine, and authentic. When we have pure intentions, they don't have any selfish motives behind it. And when your intentions are pure, you actually care about how they make other people feel. So you consider it, and then you speak. You think before you speak. I want you to question this next time you make an action or you make a comment. what is your intention? Is it pure? If it is, just be patient. It is getting stronger. It is becoming that which you have come to experience as your true purpose of life. Now, we talked about pure intentions. There is also pure mind. And we can take an example of pure mind as telepathy, also known as telepathy. I guess what I'm talking more about is catching people's vibrations. You see, a good example is when we have a clear mind and it's pure, sometimes we think of someone and they catch our vibration and they might call us. And they just catch your thought and it's just like, how did that happen? But it's because of this energy that is so pure and it can attract others' pure vibrations. So just like this, we can see how a pure mind is so clear that it connects with others in such a unique way. So now that we talked about pure mind, pure intention, and we did get a little bit of what it means to be pure, I'm going to ask this question. How do you feel when you live a life full of purity? I'll give you a minute to think about it. Yes, I think happiness is a big one. And also lightness. Yes, you feel light as in you don't feel your mind is stressed out. You feel no heaviness. And also you have this glow, this charm to you, I feel, when you're pure, this light that you emit to others. It's like this glow. You also feel good about yourself, as we said, happy. And I like to associate pure with the 3 C's, clean, clear, and clarity. So clean, you feel as in your mind is clean, there is no garbage or excess thoughts going on. You feel organized. You feel clear, as in you have a vision and there's no thoughts pondering around the whole time. And clarity, you know to just do you and you don't let other things bother you. You're not that sensitive and you know that there is clarity in your path. So remember pure with the 3 C's. In addition, I also think when you're pure, you feel healthy, as in your body feels energetic and you can do so many things, and you feel good about yourself. You feel peaceful, as your mind is at ease, and not 100 things are swarming or rushing around your mind at once. I like to say purity is the mother of peace and happiness. It is also simplicity, yet royalty. You live a simple life, yet each thing you do is with royalty. It's with grace, if you would. And you also don't overcomplicate life because you feel full inside. There's not an emptiness or longing for more because you feel whole. You feel complete. And you don't have expectations from others either, and you were content when you were pure. You realize it is what it is. Whatever comes your way, you learn to accept what is given to you, and you are thankful for what you're given. It also increases your energy and your overall well-being, so you can be more active and productive throughout the day. And we know how it feels to be active and productive, and at the end of the day, going back to it and seeing what you did through the day and what you accomplished. It's so rewarding at the end. So this is why we want to be pure. All these virtues and all these positive things at the end of the day can happen if we just instill purity in our day-to-day life. So now that we talked about living a life of purity, I want to go on the flip side so we can see. And I'm going to ask this question. How do you feel if you do not live a life full of purity? Again, take a second and put your thoughts out. Okay, so how we said that we feel light when we are pure, here we will feel heavy, heaviness in our mind, like a brick, like it's weighing us down day to day, and we want to get back up, we can't because there's just so much heaviness. You also can say impure, which is, I know, the opposite of pure, but I'd like to say that impure is more about how we can talk about how our mind is polluted, right? It's impure with these toxins and negativity, negative thoughts, and how it's harmful to our body. Because of these negative thoughts and overpollutedness, we become stressed. And we know how much negative consequences there are with stress, because you might not feel healthy. And the body and the mind both deteriorate. You go down and you feel you keep going on a downward spiral. So that's why if we are not pure, we can also become stressed. And when we're stressed, we are unmotivated to do stuff. We just feel like we want to lay in bed the whole day and not get up. And this stress, we can see how it's related to health issues again. So we can say there's health issues at the physical, emotional, and the mental stage. The physical, as we can get diseases, right? Our immune system can be compromised, and from there we can get so many diseases. And it can also be emotional, where our moods keep changing and we don't feel happy, and it just impacts how our mood is day to day. And also stress impacts our mental, that we don't have the mental stability to deal with things and we just don't feel capable. So that's why if we don't live a life of purity, we will feel heavy and we will be stressed. And stress comes with all those negative consequences, which we don't want. And if we are not okay and we are stuck in this continuous cycle, which we can't get out of because of polluted and clouded judgment, it can affect relationships, as we can also bring people down with us. And we don't want to do that, right? We want to lift people while we lift ourselves. So you will be confused, and you'll also have high expectation from others because you are empty inside. You don't feel pure, you're looking for more, you're not content. So you are empty. And this is why we need purity. And this is why we need a pure heart. So now, on the topic of pure heart, this brings a short story I had in mind called The Miracle of Pure, Selfless, Helping Heart. So, Tess was a 8-year-old girl when she heard her mom and dad talking about her little brother, Andrew. All she knew was that he was very sick, and they were completely out of money. They were moving to an apartment complex next month because Daddy didn't have the money for the doctor bills and our house. Only a very costly surgery could save him now, and it was looking like there was no one to loan them the money. She heard Daddy say to her tearful mother with whispered desperation, "Only a miracle can save him now." Tess went to her bedroom and pulled a glass jelly jar from its hiding place in the closet. She poured all the change out on the floor and counted it carefully. 3 times, even. The total had to be exactly perfect. No chance here for mistakes. Carefully placing the coins back in the jar and twisting on the cap, she slipped out the back door and made her way 6 blocks to Rexall's drugstore, with the big red Indian chief sign above the door. She waited patiently for the pharmacist to give her some attention, but he was too busy at this moment. Tess twisted her feet to make a scuffing noise. Nothing. She cleared her throat with the most disgusting sound she could muster. No good. Finally, she took a quarter from her jar and banged it on the glass counter. That did it. "And what do you want?" the pharmacist asked in an annoyed tone of voice. "I'm talking to my brother from Chicago, whom I haven't seen in ages," he said, without waiting for a reply to his question. "Well, I want to talk to you about my brother," Tess answered, back in the same annoyed tone. "He's really, really sick, and I want to buy a miracle." "I beg your pardon?" said the pharmacist. "His name is Andrew, and he has something bad growing inside his head, and my daddy says only a miracle can save him now. So how much does a miracle cost?" "We don't sell miracles here, little girl. I'm sorry, but I can't help you," the pharmacist said, softening a little. "Listen, I have the money to pay for it. If it isn't enough, I will get the rest. Just tell me how much it costs." The pharmacist's brother was a well-dressed man. He stooped down and asked the little girl, "What kind of a miracle does your brother need?" "I don't know," Tess replied with her eyes welling up. "I just know he's really sick and Mommy says he needs an operation. But my daddy can't pay for it, so I want to use my money." "How much do you have?" asked the man from Chicago. $1.11. Tess answered barely audibly. "And it's all the money I have. But I can get some more if I need to." "Well, what a coincidence," mouthed the man. $1.11? That's the exact price of a miracle for little brothers. He took her money in one hand, and with the other hand, he grasped her mittens and said, "Take me to where you live. I want to see your brother and meet your parents. Let's see if I have that kind of miracle you need." That well-dressed man was Dr. Carlton Armstrong, a surgeon, specializing in neurosurgery. The operation was completed without charge, and it wasn't long until Andrew was home again and doing well. Mom and Dad were happily talking about the chain of events that had led them to this place. "That surgery," her mom whispered, "was a real miracle. I wonder how much it would have cost." Tess smiled. She knew exactly how much a miracle cost, $1.11, plus the pure heart of a little child. So I'd like you to take a minute and reflect on the story, and I want you to see what the moral of the story was and what you have taken from this story and how it relates to purity. So I think the moral is that it's a child's innocence and pure heart that give others the gift of giving to them. It's your innocence and pure heart, your love that you carry, and your inner beauty, not your outer beauty, your truth. And all these things combined are way more powerful than doubt. You need to have faith in yourself, just like that little girl did. And she only had $1.11, but she was like, no matter what it takes, I'm going to save my brother. And she had faith in herself, and she was kind and pure-hearted. And all of these things helped her. It helped her to save her brother. The story shows the power that a pure heart has with also pure intentions. Her intentions were pure, her heart was pure, and that is how she was able to get what she wanted, her goal. She was able to achieve the goal. Pure hearts attract others to want to be surrounded by you. It is also related to innocence. This innocence that this girl carried, you could see it through her aura, her energy, and the pharmacist's brother just had to see her and look at her true intentions, and from there, he was able to help her. She didn't outsmart anyone, or she didn't play a trickery move on the pharmacist. It was the purity of heart is what enabled her to see, and what enabled the pharmacist's brother to see. Because it is the heart, when it is purified and enlightened, that it becomes inspired. The girl was inspired, and so was the neurosurgeon. He was inspired by this little girl's courage and faith, and you're pure to help. Just as the mind is the instrument of knowledge, the heart is the instrument of inspiration. If we have pure minds, we will reach our most truest potential. And we won't be conflicted within ourselves. There is no war that we will battle within ourselves. And we can just solely try to help others. Just like how in the story, the surgeon was able to help because he wasn't conflicted and he had a true vision. A pure heart sees beyond the physical and looks at others' hearts. They aren't judgmental and do not base a book just by its cover. They go deep beyond the surface. So now I want to give a little bit more of an in-depth analysis of what it means to be pure. purity is often associated with the virtue benevolence, and benevolence means to be kind and also caring. It means to be acting without a trace of evil or selfish motives. You don't have motives that are just for yourself, but instead you look for others. And your intentions are pure only when they are free of self-interest, egoism, when you think you're better than others, envy, cruelty, greed, when you just keep wanting more and more, and dishonesty. So we can be pure and benevolent at the same time. In addition to that, purity can be seen at 3 different levels. We can express purity through the physical, the mind, and the spiritual. So let's begin with purity at the physical level. The physical, I'd like to say, is our body. It would be our day-to-day actions for what we do, would be our physical. How we choose to do our routine, for example. Is it with pure thought and pure intentions, how we lead our day? Do we have a set time which we wake up? Do we eat properly and eat at the right time, right? All these things impact how purity can be seen at the physical level. It can also be a big part is what we feed our body, food for the body. And I'd like to talk about vegetarian and non-vegetarian. For example, lots of doctors nowadays are telling us not to eat that much meat. And because vegetarian is better for your health sometimes, even with dairy, byproducts of animals, a lot of people are trying not to have lactose in their diets. So non-vegetarian, I believe, is impure sometimes because when animals are slaughtered, there are stress hormones that are released. And this is harmful for when we take in our body. Just imagine how much stress does to us just when we produce our own stress and how negative of an impact it has on our body. So if we animals that have stress hormones released, we're negatively impacting our body too. So we can try to be more pure and just eat pure food more. Also, you can think of vegetarian food such as vegetables, right? You feel light when you eat veggies and fruits, right? And it's all grown naturally in the soil. So this is why we should eat pure food. Also drinking lots of water because water is pure. It has lots of minerals and it's clear again. So it can help wash out the toxins from our body as well. And we can help to get rid of impurities from our body by exercising. So if you exercise a day, whether it be half an hour, but you want to try to break a sweat, because when you break out a sweat, that's when the toxins and impurities are leaving your body. And when they leave your body, they're purifying you more. So just like this, we can work to have purity in our physical body. Now, the second level where purity can be achieved is the mind. Just like the body needs food, the mind needs food. So we can support our mind with positive thoughts. And often, though, nowadays, we do feed our mind information that is negative. And these negative thoughts are created because you absorb the negative information. Someone says something without a hesitant, you just believe what they say and you take it into negativity. Instead, we should filter what we hear and only take in a few things. Have you heard this saying, hear no evil, say no evil? Yes, right? And in this case, evil means negativity and impurity, right? So we need to filter it through our minds so that we are feeding our mind only the purest and most graceful words. So we have to, instead of the negative thoughts, we have to feed them pure. In the sense, we have to be optimistic and positive. And optimistic is a great virtue because we look at the bright side instead of the negatives. Now, I know our mind often does get cluttered and we feel like it's polluted and heaviness, you can say. So something that can help is by spending time in nature to purify your mind. It makes the mind get peaceful or else it feels like we have this storm in our mind. So if we were to take a walk outside, breathe in fresh air, our mind gets clear and there's clarity. Along with that, we also get some exercise. So I think spending time in nature is both a win-win for your body and for your mind. And the last level where we can talk about purity is at the spiritual level. So in spiritual, do we feel like we have a bigger purpose in life, right? What's our purpose? What's our end goal? And do we perceive ourselves as lightness, not this heaviness, so we can give pure vibrations? And we know we give pure vibrations when we catch others' thoughts. And we can also unburden ourselves. Spiritual means to connect with our core inner being. So really digging deep within ourselves, sitting with ourselves and reflecting and seeing what we want and what we need. And you can do this through seeing your speciality and strengths. You need to see what you can offer and what outshines for you. And then you can go towards your purpose. So throughout this journey, you're walking and you're accumulating these pure thoughts and your connections, and then you can reach your destination. So always keep in check in your mind the purity at your physical, your mind, and your spiritual. And we know that often our lives sometimes don't look like that, and they can be a bit messy, and we want to fix it. But here's the good news. We actually have a control over a lot of what we allow into our lives. The things and people we allow into our hearts and minds, we have control over that. The things we watch every day. There are so many things on television nowadays. The things we read, the books, and listen to. We have control over all of that. So what we let in, we can say, is semi-permeable. It's like a semi-permeable membrane. We can filter it to allow a few things to really pass into our minds, the positives, and we can leave out the negatives and form blockades of the impurities that we don't need to allow to enter in our body. So the next question is, so what should be true of you as you pursue purity? I'll give you a moment to think about it. So, what should be true of us as we pursue purity? Essentially, there's 3 points we can do to live a life of purity. And one of the big things to help us live a life is to choose to live transparently. And I believe we all know what transparency means, right? We can see through it. So when relating it to purity, your concern for the truth leads you to demonstrate your integrity with honesty and transparency. So purity is linked with truthfulness and honesty. And to be truthful and honest, you have to uphold your integrity, what you feel your morals and ethics stick with you, so that you can stand up for what's right. And with this, you have transparency. So you don't say something and do something else. You're transparent with yourself. If you are pure, you are honest with yourselves. You don't have to lie to yourself. You know what you stand for, and you coexist with them. And you are also honest with others. You don't lie, and you tell the truth. As a pure person, you desire a clean and whole life free from corruption. This corruption can be greed, it can be the vices, and so when you are pure, you aren't after greed, and your goals and passions are clear. Because we don't have a clouded judgment, therefore your mind has clarity, and you can see. You can see what you want, and you can envision where you want to take you. These goals you set are there to bring purity and clarity in your life, to give you a greater purpose. As we talked about, the purpose can be related to the spiritual aspect of purity. Your desire for purity leads you to avoid and resist temptations that would pollute or weaken your character. So sometimes there's a shortcut that we can take, but you shouldn't take that path because you know in the long run there can be repercussions for that. So just take the long way, right? Don't take the shortcut because it'll better you. For example, even though it's easier to take the car every day to work, you can choose to walk. The benefits: you're getting fresh air, you can clear your mind up, and you're not polluting the environment with your car. So you're trying to be as pure for your body and for the environment. And this gives you clarity as you even get exercise. So by living a life of transparency, honesty, integrity, you can see through the good. So now, the second point of how we should be true as we pursue purity is to have actions that affirm what is good. Now, we have many decisions we have to make in life. We're often given many alternatives, and we have to agree with the decision. And you need to choose appropriately and excellently. You should value selflessness, and in turn, you get others' good wishes and pure thoughts. Fighting for purity helps you strive for what is good, as it can be displayed in your words and actions. For example, someone crossing the road, and you help them by carrying their bags maybe, because it's an elderly woman, but inside, you have inner satisfaction because your level of purity reminds you to give back to society and help others. So when you affirm actions that are good, you're not only helping yourself, but you're helping others too. So it's a win-win situation, and you both benefit, as it's your pure intentions that you have to help others that also gives you pure blessings and good wishes at the end. So you both win. So always remember to have actions that affirm what is good. Now, the third thing is you love others unconditionally and you stay humble, that you don't boast. Instead of valuing fame and all this, you value peace with others. You serve them selflessly with nothing in return. You know that whatever you're doing is for others, and you don't need anything in return. And you're also giving love and respecting them as individuals. So from these 3 points, transparency, affirming what is good with your actions, and to loving others and staying humble, you have to ask, does this vision of purity seem unrealistic or unattainable? Well, we do know that most of us will never reach perfection in this life. We should still strive towards this high standard, always climbing and fighting for what we believe we can have our most highest potential. You need to remember, pure living is a lifelong marathon. You have to keep going at it every day. You can't stop. It's not an all or nothing sprint that happens in 100 meters. No, it's this marathon that we have to train for our whole life. And we have to keep going at it, and we have to build this strength and endurance that we have. We have to keep going at it, and we have to value ourselves and recognize the potential we each hold. So we have to have confidence when we're doing this. And only then can we attain a pure lifestyle. So, another question I'm going to ask is, why is purity important? Why do we need to have purity in our life? I can give you another minute to think about it and reflect. So, purity benefits you in several important ways. You shouldn't underestimate its value in your life, because when you have purity, it can do wonders for you and your life. And it feels like you can finally see. Like you put a new pair of glasses on with this lens that's given you a totally different perspective, this better perspective. Pure living benefits not only you, but also those who are close to you. So it also promotes caution, right? You evaluate situations And from there, you can make good choices in life, while preventing corruption in thought, words, or deeds. It gives you a good judgment as your mind is clear and your intentions are pure. So you can make the best decision as you carefully assess the situation, and from there you can pick the best course of action. It inspires you to avoid stumbling blocks or the wrong path and helps you live free of guilt and regret, right? Because if we don't have a clear mind with clarity, then we can pick the wrong path or we can make the wrong decision, and then later on we have the guilt and regret, right? So if we can have a pure mind just to start with, then we have good judgment, we can make the path the right choice, and we all know that then we won't have guilt and regret. And we know that guilt and regret eats us up from inside when we have it. So why not just start with having a pure mind? It's also important because purity helps to support good health, as we talked about, and a long life, and leads to satisfaction and peace. As impurity do lead to toxin and it pollutes our mind, this can again lead to stress. And then we all know the negative impact that stress has on our body, so our physical, our mental, and our emotional aspects. So if we just have purity, we can support good health, eat good food, exercise, live a pure and simple life, and we just know how much better that is for us. In addition to that, purity is also important because it helps to highlight the faults in our lives or things that you might want to change and spurs you towards a better version of yourself. When you have purity, you can see what you might want to change. For example, you might not be sleeping on time, right? And this can make you realize that, and you can change that. So purity is kind of like our coach. It helps to always better us, to push us, to make us move past whatever has happened, and to just be the best versions of ourselves. So once you have pureness, it has awakened inside of you, then you can realize that you might need to change your habits and how much time you give to your well-being, such as spending time outside or giving yourself positive affirmations. We all know how boosting and powerful positive affirmations can be. It might even make you realize that with others, you have to forgive them and not dwell on the past. Because if we don't forgive others also, then we can't move on. So if we have purity, it makes us realize, it makes us think with a clear mind, and purity can help cultivate a community of loving individuals. We can love others, and we can also be humble about it, and this helps with purity. So in essence, striving for and maintaining purity affects all aspects of your life. A pure heart will show in your thoughts, words, choices, attitudes, relationships, and even more. Remember that your pure living benefits not only you, but also others who are close to you. So now I'm going to give you a few tips on how you can implement purity into your everyday life. You have to examine your motives. What's the reasoning behind the actions you take? And you have to strive for purity each day in these ways. So the first way we can implement purity is to examine our speech. Think about how much we talk per day, right? We have to examine our speech. So we have to think before we speak. And it's also about not only what we say, but how we say it. So the tone we say it in. A tone is a big factor on how something comes out and what you're trying to perceive. So with your speech, are you being simple? Is there simplicity in your words? Straightforward. You're not going on all these different tangents, but you're being straightforward. And is there honesty? Remember, purity is related to honesty because there's truthfulness, and with that you uphold your integrity, and with there is honesty and candid. Or does your speech have some intent to deceive? So you always have to ask these questions. Are you promoting both truth and grace in your words? Do you speak with honesty and uphold the words you say? Remember, being pure means to be honest, and this means to live a life of integrity. Now, the second thing we can do to help implement purity is to examine friendships. Now, a friendship is a type of relationship which many of us, or I'd say all of us, have friends, right? And with friendships, you can instill purity by asking yourself these questions. Are the relationships instrumental? Are you gaining something from there? Or is it sustained by the possibility of future ego or material benefit? Are you just using your friends? Or are they based purely on caring and giving? So friendships can be instrumental when they are pure in their nature, when they both have good intentions, both have pure intentions, and they're there to help each other and help each other grow. So we need to make pure friendships within our life because they can be greatly instrumental. We also have to examine our gift giving and charity to give back to people. Do you ever give with the thought of receiving something in return, or is your giving motivated purely by caring, kindness, generosity, compassion, love? Check yourself. Ask yourself these questions. Do you give back with pure intentions and a pure heart, or is there something you're looking for? Do you ever give compliments with the hope of receiving a compliment in return? Remember, you should give unconditionally without expecting anything in return. And you must do this with a pure heart and pure mind. So another way we can implement purity in our everyday life is by trying to become aware of our own hypocrisies. I feel that nowadays many people do that. Myself, I even do that. I notice when I'm inconsistent in what I say and what I do. For example, I might say that I exercise, or I might say that you should exercise more, but if I'm not exercising and I'm telling others to exercise, then I'm just being a hypocrite. So I have to strive to increase my fidelity. So in general, you have to look first to yourself, and then you can look to others. You have to change yourself first, and then you can change the world. So the change starts with you. Just like that, you have to look at yourself first. Now, purity is also associated with, I think, a bit of all the virtues. So in this way, we have to get rid of all our vices. So these vices are like the opposite of virtue. So vanity, envy, jealousy, anger, greed, gambling, and others. We have to strive to end these because these are only things that are not helping us grow. And if we are pure, then we should not have, or try not to have, these vices within us. Because purity is essentially simplicity. Okay, and the last thing we can do is examining our love. We did talk about how there is purity with love. And this love, we always have to ask, is it unconditional or is it conditional, right? Conditional means that there's a stop to it, right? Unconditional means that it's overflowing and it's always giving. So we have to check that within ourselves too. We have to see that and see how much love we're giving. So with all these steps, we can and we will implement purity into everyday life. Purity is important, but seeking purity in the world seems like you are swimming against the tide of popular opinion. So even if you could achieve it, is purity something you can maintain in this life? Right? It's the marathon again. We have to maintain it. We have to have that endurance. And if you said yes, it's the right answer. Purity is possible. And some key elements to consider in addition for a fight of purity, I'm going to share right now. There's two things. So first thing is to change your perception of the heart. the heart inside that we have. We have to change the perception and give a new outlook and perspective to it. I know that we do have impure actions, and our impure actions proceed from impure hearts. So once you clean the inside, then you can clean the outside. So striving for pure behavior without a pure heart is like cleaning only the outside of a dirty fishbowl, right? When the inside is where the mess is, why would you clean the outside of a fishbowl? So that's why you have to start with cleaning the inside, and then you can clean the outside. You need a change of heart. Essentially, purity is possible only by admitting your mistakes. And you have to learn from different lessons and move forward and live the purest way you can in the purest form in this life. The second thing that we can do to consider for purity is to control ourselves. I know nowadays there's so many temptations, but we have to realize that we have to put a stop on it, and we have to see that if we take the wrong path, then there's repercussions to it. So we have to control ourselves right now and put a halt to it. Self-control does help with our progress towards purity. You have to apply maximum effort to attain and maintain innocence. Just like that little girl in the story, she had so much innocence and pure heart. So by orientating your life towards purity, you should no longer feed impure desires. You should stop from tempting influences, which might involve breaking off relationships that aren't getting you anywhere and that are bringing you down. Getting rid of unhealthy material. We have so much junk sitting at our house. I feel that it's just overcomplicating and heavying our life. So if we don't need it, we can take it out. Also, changing jobs. You can do that to help. And even more, set limits on your behavior and have an escape plan to avoid indulging in what you know is wrong. Your wants determine what you say and do, so examine what you desire. Do you wish for purity throughout your life? Yes? Then apply the maximum effort to attain and maintain your innocence. This endeavor is not something to be taken lightly or carelessly. Strive toward what is pure and good, and flee from what is not. Okay, and so striving for purity is worth the effort. You will never be perfect in this life, but you can grow. Grow like a tree. Grow like a plant. You can find joy in the fight for purity through little and big victories. Even something little can boost your confidence and help you realize that you're on the right track. It gives you these little bursts of confidence. Just know, you are not where you could be. You have not arrived. Persevere in these things and keep moving towards purity. Do not stop. So, a quote I have is, "Return to the purity of your innocence, where you were enchanted with life. Give love for no reason. Surround yourself with others doing the same." So, I'd like you to just take a minute and sit with yourself. And I want you to reflect on all these things that we've talked about, from what is purity, what does it mean to live a pure life, why purity is important, how to implement it in everyday life, and we also went over a short story that gave a beautiful example of what it means to have a pure heart with a pure mind with pure intentions. So just open your eyes and just really look and see how much purity can honestly benefit you in your everyday life. I really do thank you for joining us here today, and I hope you took at least one point away. You can feel free to ask any questions in the chat box if you have any. But if there are no questions, you guys are also interested to learn more about the BK, you can feel free to also visit our website about Raj Yoga. It's a beautiful course that takes place and it helps. It truly does. So you can also visit our whole series on self-care on YouTube. So please check those out too. Now we are going to take 2 minutes to sit in silence and reflect. Thank you, take care, and we'll see you again soon.